side. Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this little butterfly. It's made from willow, which is a tree that grows in the hedgerows, and what we're going to need for this butterfly are about 8 to 10 longer rods, and these are for the body and also for the hoops. And then we're going to need a bunch of smaller rods, which we're going to use for doing all the weaving and the wrapping. And then the last thing we need is a pair of secateurs, or a big pair of scissors should cut this. This willow is green and fresh, so it's lovely and flexible, and it should cut easily. And this is just like a little poker tool. We can use a pencil or anything to just open up the willow a little bit if we have to thread some through. So we'll leave this to the side. Okay, so to start this butterfly, we're going to create hoops around which we weave the smaller rods. So let's start. You might see that the bigger part of the wing on a butterfly is at the top, and they have smaller ones at the bottom. So we're going to try to make 2 bigger ones and 2 smaller ones. Let's see how we get on. So we take one of our thick rods, and we're going to run our hand up the rod like this. I'm going to curl it around so we can see the shape of the wing there already. Now what we have to do is we're trying to keep it as round as possible, and also we need to leave a couple of inches, maybe 4 or 5 centimeters of the thick end sticking out the end there, like that. And then when we have the right size for our wing, we're going to take the rest of the rod and bend it around like so, and then that goes inside, and then we can start to weave with this. And so the weaving is, the rod comes around the outside of one side, and it goes into the middle, and it comes around the outside of the other side of the wing. Then we bend it around and it goes inside again to the other side, and then around and in, and again around and in. Now it's important at the start that we don't pull it in too much, because it's going to squeeze this in and make it long, but we're trying to keep it fat. So keep an eye on the shape, and then we just keep weaving. This is like a figure of 8. Goes in and out and in and out. So around, then in, back out, around, in, back out, around, in, and back out. So we don't squeeze down too much either. And we keep going until we've used all of the rod, like so. We can leave it about there. Okay, now with our smaller rods, we're going to continue this weaving, and the way we start is we take our thick end and we push it up from underneath until it rests on the right hand side, and then we hold the left hand side and we push that in like before. And then we continue the weaving around the outside and in, around the outside, back in, and we keep going like this, weaving the small rods until they're finished, like so. Now I'm just keeping my fingers there to stop it unraveling. So if we hold it until we get another rod, I'm going to change colour. I'm going to use a green one this time. Again, up from underneath until it's sitting on the edge here, and then we bend this around and we go in, around, in, around the other side. So each wing might need 1, 2, 3, maybe 7 or 8 of the smaller rods. So when we start, we make sure it's pushed up nice and tight. And all of these little tails that are sticking out, we can cut them off when we're finished. So there, and then we hold it again. I'm going to just alternate my colours now, just to give a bit of contrast. Now, willow rods are obviously growing in nature, and as is the nature of things, sometimes these can break. There might be little imperfections somewhere in the rod, and if they break, you can change it for another rod, or you can cut it off where it breaks and use the rest of the rod. But really, don't be worrying if it does snap. Now these are freshly cut willow, so they're lovely and flexible, and there's more than enough in your pack to do if a few of them break. And we're getting closer to the end here, and the hole gets smaller, so it just gets a little bit more fiddly. So we just take our time. So we bend it around, and that goes in and around, in and around, in and around. Now if this hole is getting too small to pull this through, you might find it tricky to pull it through. We literally just feed the tip in and we pull it. And then again, feed the tip in and pull. And feed the tip in. One more. Okay, so there's enough space for maybe one more rod. So we start off as usual. The butt comes up from underneath, and then we're just going to feed it in, pull it through, okay, there's a tiny gap left, so we just keep going until there's no more space. Maybe one more time in, just about. Okay, that's our first wing. And then we're just going to cut off these little ends here so they don't stick out. and these little tails as well. Okay, so there's our first wing. Now this can be my big wing, the one at the top. So I need to make another one the same size as this. So that's what I'm going to do next. So we leave this here. I take another big rod, and what I do here is I rub my thumb up it, and it just allows it to come around in the shape. So what size was it? We can use the first one, so it's roughly, if you imagine it's going to be squished in a little bit, and remember to leave this little tail. Whoa! Do that again. So do it again. Leave that little tail a couple of inches, 5 or 6 centimeters, 4 or 5 centimeters, and then roughly the same right size. Okay, now holding this tight, I'm going to bring this around. This time we're doing it the other way. It goes around and back up. It goes around and back up. So it doesn't matter which way we do it really. As long as when it goes around, it goes through the hole. Okay. So this is the same thing as before. We're trying not to squeeze it too much. We're trying to keep it more fat like that. But as we go around, these sides squeeze in anyway. So okay, maybe one more. Now we move on to the small rods, and the way we introduced them was up from underneath, rested on the edge, and we're going back in, down through the hole. Doesn't matter, as I say, but this is easier. Every time you introduce a rod, we'll go down into the hole, around and in, around and in. And that's as far as we go with that. And remember, just hold it lightly. I'll pick a green rod this time to give us a bit of contrast. There we go. And bend it around, and in it goes. Around the side. In, around, in. So once you get the hang of this, we get quicker with the weaving. Like so. Now take a yellow, and it goes around. Can we get one more? Maybe. So we just hold it. Now we'll go for a green again. So once the new one starts, it holds the older one down in place. So we're over halfway now. Again, I'm just going to change my colour. You can pick whatever colours you have, and it's nice to alternate them. Or maybe you could do the big wings in one colour and the small wings in another. It's just a bit of fun really. Okay. It goes in to the other side. And in. I'd say by this stage you've got the hang of the weaving. Okay, that's not long enough to go back. Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, okay, we'll just hold it there. No, that was popped out. Okay, so are you long enough? Yeah, I think you're long enough. I'd say maybe just 2 more. So pick a green. Oh no, that's a yellow. Doesn't matter. Okay. I wonder if this is going to be our last one, or is there going to be space? I think this could be our last one, you know. So if it's too hard to fold the rod in, just feed the tip in instead. Yeah, and maybe just one more weave. Now, there you go. Spread them all out a bit maybe, so it looks more even. And there we have our second wing. They look quite similar. So what we did with the first, remember, we trimmed any bits that are sticking out. And then this side also, any bits that are sticking out. Just watch our fingers. And this particular one took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rods, 9 weaving rods. So there we have our 2 upper wings. So we'll leave these here. And now we'll make slightly smaller lower wings. It's exactly the same process. You take one of the big rods, rub our thumb up so we can get the curl on it, and then we swing it around and ever so slightly make this circle smaller. So we want it to be smaller than this. See that? Slightly shorter. And we also need to leave our big thick end sticking out. So I'll just make it a little bit less sticking out. Okay, so it's definitely smaller. Now, if we have to hold where these cross over tight, and we bring this around and up, this is a big heavy rod, so it's important, you know, we don't pick the rods too thick. Back around and back up, and then around and through the hole, around, and again. We don't want to squish it too much, so we're trying to keep it as fat as possible. Now, obviously it's a smaller wing, so it won't need as many rods. So maybe 6 or 7 should do it. So I'm naturally left-handed, so I think maybe I'm doing a lot of the work with my left hand. But obviously if you're right-handed, you hold it with your left and you do this with your right. So it works both ways, of course, it's the same thing. Okay, then we pick one of our smaller rods, hold it, and then weave it back in.